Today I'm training glutes and hamstrings. I'm doing a workout from my advanced hourglass program and I wanted to talk about how to keep making progress. I've been sharing a lot of workouts during the last couple of years and I tend to show workouts in the 8 to 15 rep range because it's a safe rep range to show for beginners to advanced lifters. And since social is so quick, people consume a piece of content without context, so that's why I usually opt for the safer route. However, I actually periodize my training, and here's why and how. If your goal is to build muscle, there is no one rep range that is best. There's actually a continuum that goes from 3 to 5 to 15 plus reps that all support your goal of building muscle, and you can use this to your advantage. Imagine doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps of a certain exercise. At one point, you will reach a plateau. You can no longer increase the weight you used to train 3 to 10 to 12 reps. So now you have a few options. The first one is to take rest. Sometimes you accumulate fatigue and need some extra time to rest and recover. You can take a week off, you can do a deload and just see how things goes after. And the second one is just to keep pushing. This often isn't your most successful strategy, however. For example, think about marathon runners who want to increase their time. They don't practice running marathons every single day. You do speed sessions, longer runs, interval training, like you basically train different elements so that you can then successfully increase your time for a marathon. And that is option number 3. You periodize your training to successfully bust through any plateaus. I'm going to explain how it works, and if you don't want to think about this all yourself, get my app. Periodization is built into the programs. It's different for every level of expertise, and you will know that you'll be getting the most out of your training. I have a free 14-day trial available if you want to go ahead and give it a try, and I'll link it in the description box down below. But for my beginner lifters, I can work with phases of 4 weeks or so, during which you keep repeating the same schedule. I tend to keep exercise selection limited during the beginner phases because beginners need to build their skill, and improving your skill means repetition. And then you can better recruit the intended muscles, you can strengthen them over time, and you get better results. And then I can, for example, do a linear periodization style where with every subsequent phase, I tend to intensify slightly while introducing a greater exercise variability. With an intensification phase, I mean gradually lowering the rep ranges and reducing the overall volume. And then after 3 phases or so, which is 12 weeks, I can then start an accumulation phase of volume during which I increase the rep ranges and increase total volume. Instead of keep doing 3 times 10 to 12, I might lower down to 4 sets of 8 to 10, 3 sets of 6 to 8, and then go back up to 4 sets of 10 to 12. And you'll notice that, if done correctly, your capacity will be increased for the 4th phase compared to the 1st. It's hard to show the meso and macro cycles on social, but every training session should have its place and role in the meso and macro cycles if you truly want to keep progressing over time. For my intermediate lifters, I can work with phases of 4 weeks again, as I found that it's what most females enjoy most in terms of not doing the same thing for too long versus not changing things too often so that they don't see results. But I can go from an intensification phase right back into an accumulation phase of volume with greater jumps. I can even lower my intermediate lifters into the 4 to 6 reps for the second intensification phase, which I wouldn't do as quickly for my beginner lifters. There's more exercise diversity in total and a greater total volume compared to beginners. Then for advanced lifters, I love working with shorter phases, maybe 4 times 3 weeks instead of 3 times 4 weeks, and not only switch between intensification phases and accumulation phases of volume, but also introduce DUP. So during the week, we'll have lighter, intermediate, and even heavier days. There is a greater variety of exercises, increased total volume, and I can even work my way down to the 3 to 5 reps for certain compound lifts. Anyways, Social doesn't show this full picture because it's hard to show the context, but the main takeaway is that doing the same thing over and over again will most likely result in plateaus, and to overcome this, you can manipulate different variables over time. I haven't even talked about this leg workout. Starting with the warm-up, you know it, warming up is absolutely key. It's not only key to prevent injuries, but it's also key for making sure that your head is in the game. It always helps me to really be engaged with the training, to recruit the intended muscles better, and just to get more out of my training session. So I always make sure to warm up properly. Even if I have 30 minutes to train, I'll make sure that I spend at least 10 minutes of it warming up, just because it gives me more return for the effort that I put in. I also see it as a moment to check in with myself to see if something is feeling off, if something is cold, if something needs a bit of extra attention. So for example, for me today, my left shoulder blade is feeling a little bit off. It's an old, not really injury, but it's an old thing that pops up when I spend a lot of time behind my laptop in a wrong chair, which is what I have been doing with the launch of the app. It's something that started whenever I was writing my thesis for my bachelor like years ago. Just, I guess, tweaked something in my shoulder, and now whenever I do it, it kind of gets numb, it gets annoying. So I spend a lot of time warming it up, as you could see, even though I was training glutes, because the thing is with injuries, you can't really tell whenever they're going to pop up. So even that I'm training glutes, like I could lift up a dumbbell for the Romanian deadlift that I was about to do, and then something just like tweaks, and then your shoulder is like screwed. So you want to make sure that you really focus on warming up properly. And then I moved on to the first exercise, which was the dumbbell Romanian deadlift. A series of the lift is 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps. Now, this is the thing about rep ranges that I feel isn't very common knowledge. With rep ranges, you want to make sure that you hit the highest number of the range. So whenever it says 4 times 6 to 8, try to aim for 8 reps. Pick a weight that you think will allow you to do 8 reps with good form while pushing yourself. And then if you can't make it to 8, it's okay if you hit 6. What I did is I started off with dumbbells of 26 kgs. And then I felt like they were a bit too heavy for me. I lowered the weight and I went for 8. The reason why I was guessing my weights and my strength was because I was transitioning from my period into my follicle phase of my cycle. And I can't really say that I definitely notice a pattern of changes in my strength, but I do always feel that this transition is a bit heavier on me. So I always just like to, again, assess how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. I don't really change my training depending on where I'm at in my cycle. I do, especially when I'm on my period, I always try to go by how I'm feeling. And if I don't feel well, I don't go to the gym. And sometimes I feel good enough to go to the gym, but then the thought of having a barbell on my uterus I just can't do it. So then I just change exercises. We started today's workout with the dumbbell Romanian deadlift, which is a hip hinge variation. And this exercise is hardest when the glutes are at the lengthened positions, when your hips are fully pushed back. That's the hardest point of the exercise for the glutes. And then we transitioned into an exercise that is hardest when the glutes are at the mid-range, which is the kettlebell sumo squat or a squat variation. And then the third one was the B-stance barbell glute bridge, which is an exercise that is hardest when the glutes are at the shortened position, when your hips are fully extended. 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps per side. Again, aim for 10. If you hit 8, it's fine. Start with your weaker side first. And since it's a B stance, what you want to do is you want to have approximately 70% of the load on your working leg and then 30% of the load on your non-working leg. Unilateral exercises are great to minimize any muscular or strength imbalances, and I feel like they're especially important for exercises where you can't see the muscles working in the mirror. Often when I can look at myself, it's easier for me to look at the muscles on the left side of my body because the muscles on the right side of my body tend to be stronger. So I look at the muscles on the left side, and then I can kind of visually contract them and work them and recruit them. But obviously my glutes, I can't see them in the mirror when I'm like doing the exercise. So therefore I feel it's harder to recruit both sides evenly, and adding some unilateral work in your glute workouts is great to make sure that you prevent any imbalances from happening or that you minimize them if you have them. So as always, start with your weaker side and then match the work with your stronger side. And then I did the seated leg curl. With the seated leg curl, I love to just add some partial reps at the end. And then we move into an isolation for the glutes, which is the cable glute kickback. I elevate myself by standing on a plate, and then I kind of make sure that my working leg is going to the side of my body a bit, and I allow it to go in front of me to increase the range of motion. And then after, I did the cable crunches for my abs, which is a great way to strengthen your abs, especially since you can increase weight here. So it's really good to overload on them. I did 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps, and make sure that your hips stay stationary and that you only move by crunching your abs. And make sure that you don't wear headphones, because that doesn't really work with the rope attachment. And then after, I did a cool down, which I didn't film fully, but part of the cool down is walking on a treadmill for a few minutes just to, I guess, get yourself back into your regular state again. And then I also spent some time stretching. You could also do some foam rolling. You could also do foam rolling before your workout, whatever you prefer. But I just like to do some static stretches. Static stretches create a bit of balance because by training your muscles, you actively shorten them, and then with the static stretches you lengthen them again. So it's great to maintain some flexibility, because they say you can only guess your age by how flexible your spine is or whatever. So make sure that you stay flexible and that you actually spend some time cooling down after the training, and don't just run out of the gym after your last set. So that was it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and then I'll see you for the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye guys.